In this lesson, we are going to do a little bit more work with the if function, and then we're going to add another one called the Countif function, which is another logical operator. And then we'll also get to take a look at the counties of California and the governor's election in 2014 between Jerry Brown and Neil Kashkari. So to start off with, let's just get a little bit of background here. This election took place in 2014 to elect governor of California, and it was between these two gentlemen right here, Jerry Brown. Zoom in a little bit there if I can. Jerry Brown and this gentleman here named Neil Kashkari. This was the Democrat and the Republican. And so, as many of you know, the winner was Jerry Brown. And so we're going to take a look at those election results by county for California. Now, the California counties, there are a total of 58 counties in California. And here's some demographic data that perhaps in a later lesson we can go in and take a look at. But here's a list of all the different counties. And then a map of those counties looks like this. And here we are up in Modoc. Actually, Tule Lake High School is right there, just on the border of Siskiyou and Modoc County. But the high school itself is within Siskiyou County. But interestingly, we do all of our school business through Alturas, through the Modoc County Office of Education. And Tule Lake High School is what we call a joint unified school district because it crosses county lines. And so that's why in the older days of our district, many of you would have attended. I think some of you still have attended Newell School down in Newell, and so that was part of Modoc County. And so the districts combined a long time ago and became a joint unified school district. So anyway, our students come from both Modoc and Siskiyou County. So to begin with, the first thing you need to do is to get this information. And this is the California election 2014 for governor. And so you can go to Schoology and download this particular document. And the name of that document is right here. It's going to look just like this one right here. And the name of it is Countif Governor 2014 Student. So it's a student version. So go ahead and go over to Schoology, and there's that name of that document right there. And bring that up, and then we will continue working through some new functions. Okay, assuming you have this up, make sure you save it to your Dropbox too, so that you have a permanent copy of this, especially in the event that you don't finish during this class period. So notice what we've got here. We've got a listing of the counties all the way down here in an alphabetical order. And so we've put a line item here and just to count the counties. And so, like we said previously, there are a total of 58 counties within California. And this is the information for Jerry Brown, indicated by blue for the Democratic candidate, and then for Neil Kashkari for the Republican in red. And so here are the total votes that that particular individual received. So the first thing we want to do is fix up some of these numbers, put them in a comma format. So let's simply go ahead and select all of these. This is just review for you. Comma format makes these numbers a lot easier to read. And then we do not need any decimal places, so we'll go ahead and reduce that. And then do the same thing for the votes over here for the Republican side. Next up, we need to calculate the percent that each of these candidates received per county. So for example, in Alameda County, we want to know what percent of the vote, total vote, did Jerry Brown get, and what percent of the total vote did Neil Kashkari get here. So here's how we do that. Recall from previous lessons that a percentage is calculated as a part divided by the whole amount. So we're going to do it like this. We will use some of our algebra skills here as far as the use of parentheses to control the order of operations. So we need to have the total of the votes, and then we need to divide the part that went to Jerry and the part that went to Neil. So equals, and so we need to take this, the votes for Jerry Brown, and divide that by, but we're going to have to use some parentheses to control order of operations because we want to add up the votes for Jerry and the votes for Neil. And so it's going to be C5 plus the total votes over here for Neil. And another parenthesis. So it's going to take this number and divide it by the sum of this number plus this number. And there we have it, 82.1%. So what you'll need to do is to go ahead and do that for the rest of these 58 counties. I'll repeat it one time over here for Kashkari. There you go. So go ahead and take the time to finish that for the rest of the other 57 counties. And then come on back, and we'll go ahead and put in an if statement to calculate the winner for each of the counties. The next step is to indicate who the winner is for each county. And the way that we will do that is to apply our if statements that we've learned in the previous lessons. What we want to do is put in what we are calling this logical operator. We want to compare this percentage to this percentage and then reveal who the winner is for that category or for that county. Equals if in fact, I think before I do that, I'm going to have you try. So I'll put a little pause in here. Go ahead and pause the video and see if on your own you can create an if statement to compare this percentage to this percentage and indicate who the winner is for that particular county. So give it a try. Pause the video, give it a try, go ahead and make mistakes, don't worry about that, and then come back and I'll go through it with you. Okay, hopefully you had a little bit of luck with that, and it's always good to try those things, make some mistakes, and that's how you learn. That's how you find out where you are missing a little piece of information there to help you be successful with this particular little function. So here's how it goes. Equals if, and that parenthesis. And so we simply want to compare this value here with this value here. And so the way we're going to do that is use the, we could do it a couple ways. We'll just go ahead and use the greater than sign. So let's do this. Let's say if the value here in D5 is greater than the value in F5, in other words, if Brown's votes are greater than Kashkari's votes, if that statement is true, we want to indicate or type in this cell, place in this cell, the name Brown, and that would indicate that he was the winner. If it's not true, comma, then what we want to do is put in the name Kashkari. And let's see if that makes sense. If Brown is not greater than Kashkari, then Kashkari would be what we want to reveal, and that would show that he's the winner, because what that is saying then is that because it's not true, then the value in the F column would be greater than the value in the D column. Let's see if we press enter, if it works. It seems to work. So that's good. So go ahead and do that for the rest of your values. Each of these here to reveal the winner for each of the counties, and then we'll move on and do a total count of how many counties each of these candidates for governor won in 2014. Well, at this point in the lesson, you should have a worksheet that looks like this. All of the percentages are calculated for each candidate, and you have put in an if function comparing the votes for Brown versus the votes for Kashkari for each of the counties, revealing who the winner was. So for Alameda County, the winner was Brown. For Butte County, this Kashkari, I think that's how you say his name, by the way, in Butte County was Kashkari, and so on. So what we want to do now is count up how many votes were for Brown and how many were for Kashkari. And then we're going to do a graph to show the difference. In fact, what we're going to do is do a graph, and we're going to see how it compares to the total votes for each of these people. So step one, let's make these columns a little wider. I'm going to select column I and column J. Click Format, column width, and let's make it 10. And then I'm going to select, starting in I3, and select J3, and click Merge and Center, and then type Counties 1. And then over here, I will put Brown, and here will be Kashkari. And then let's put a border underneath that. Going a little faster now because this is all review. At any time, pause the video or ask questions. So this next formula that we're going to use is something called Countif. Now, the count function simply counts how many numbers are in a series of cells. For example, and you don't have to do this, just watch this. If I were to use this count function to say how many values are in this column here, I would do it like this. Equals count, parenthesis, and then I would just simply select all of these cells and another paren, press enter, and it reveals that there are 58 values. So you can do that with any range of cells. Equals count. I could just come out here and say, well, I wonder how many numbers are in these cells here. I'll even include the text. And it will just count. It didn't count these names. It just counted how many cells had a value within there, within that range. But what we're going to do is use a formula called Countif, and the if allows us to designate some particular condition that we are looking for within the contents of that cell. And so what we can do here is that we can use this COUNTIF and count how many of these cells have the name Brown and how many of the cells have the name Kashkari. So here's how it works. Equals COUNTIF. And notice that when we do that, that little shortcut's popping up there. COUNTIF counts the number of cells within a range that meet the given condition. All right, so COUNTIF, parenthesis, select all the cells that we want to evaluate. There they are. And then, comma, what condition do we want to meet? And so the condition here that we want to meet is we want to know everything in those cells that has the name Brown. Don't forget those quotation marks. Indicates a label. Just like that. And that's going to tell us how many counties Jerry Brown won. He won 28 of the 58 counties. Well, let's do the same thing for Kashkari. Equals COUNTIF, select all 58 counties, but this time, comma, we want to know how many of those cells have the name Cash. Make sure you spell the name correctly. Get the result we want. Now, if we did things correctly, 30 plus 28 should equal our total of counties, which is 58, so it looks good. So we can see here that even though Jerry Brown won the election, he didn't win as many counties. And if we look down here, we can see Jerry Brown won. There's 3.8 million versus 2.6 million, so he won quite easily. 59 versus 41%. But when it came to the counties in California, this gentleman here, Neil Kashkari, actually won more of our counties in California. And so if we want to show that graphically, we can just simply do this. Let's get some space out here. Select the county values. Insert. Let's do a column chart. There we go. I'll move that right there. Select data. We need to put some labels for these two gentlemen, Brown and Kashkari. So we're going to select here the names. There they are, Brown, Kashkari. Click OK. And then come over to the series and we'll go ahead and edit and give it a name. And let's call it Counties 1 2014 Governor Election. Let's see how that looks. So there's our 28 for Brown and 30 Kashkari, clearly indicating that he won more. And let's take it one step further and be politically correct with our colors for the Republicans and the Democrats. So we'll stick with the blue for Jerry Brown. I click once, highlights both in our series. Click one more time, it highlights just the value for Kashkari. And then we can right click, click on the fill button and choose red. And there we go. So at this point, let's call this completed. Actually, let's take it one step further and go ahead and see if you can graph another chart for these totals. And they should be down at the bottom of your worksheet, already calculated for you. right here. Do another column chart for just the total votes. Here, here, and here, and here, and here. And then put that chart right next to this one so you can compare those two. Put them side by side, or put it below it. Yeah, it might be easier to have some space down here for it. And then you can compare those two charts. So when you're finished, you'll have something that looks like this. And I'd say, yeah, go ahead and put them side by side. And this is what you can show me for the completion of this lesson. So there's our counties won. There's Kashkari clearly in the lead, 30 versus 28. But then you take a look at the vote total for governor, and clearly Jerry Brown won that election by quite a few votes. And so there's that chart right there, side by side. Get a nice little comparison. And then a topic for another lesson might be why that is. How could he win more counties, but yet not have near as many votes? And so that would have to do with some issues in the demographics of California. And in fact, since we're here talking about this, I will just quickly say, who do you think won in Modoc County? Rural California. Lots of agriculture, ranching. Well, let's go take a look and see how big the winner won in Modoc County. Here's Modoc County. And look at this right here. The Republican, 72% versus 27% for Jerry Brown. So once we get the results in the upcoming presidential election, it will be interesting to see how these numbers hold up for Modoc County. Perhaps we can just go on record right now and predict that Donald Trump will be in the 70s versus Hillary Clinton in the 20s. And so about a month from now, we should be able to get hold of those numbers and do a comparison.